Computer. Lights.
Good morning, everyone. Maybe Spring's Monday. I can't think of a joke today, so I was kind of like, I could sit here and stare at the wall. Yeah, see, nothing's coming to mind. I'm just not thinking funny today, which is, that's okay. Normally, I would do a Springs Monday, but I sat there in the shower and I was like, which is usually where inspiration comes from for Springs. I just couldn't think of anything. So it might be Springs Tuesday because I might have to let it brew for a while. Hey, but I got an alert from Restream saying the chat wasn't working. And it looks like the chat's working fine to me. So shrug. Sounds like the thing's going. So I did get I had to go through and redo the deck plans of the Kittiwake. And the major reason behind that was, so it's interesting when you do a project, there's a lot of moments or things where you kind of have to ponder and think about things. And there are all these steps where if you make a mistake at this one step, everything downhill from that step is messed up. And the mistake that I made at this point in time was not using Blender's scale correctly. So Blender has, has a grid that you can build your ships on and build everything on, and you build it all on this grid. And you can use the grid to say one square equals, it doesn't matter what, one square could equal, one rabbit's width for all it matters, so long as everything is consistent. And I had built the ship where 1 meter was a square, and then I went over here into Clip Studio, and I just stuck some random grid on it. And the grid was 1 meter each square. But then what happened was that now that I'm trying to reconcile the outside of the ship with the inside of the ship, the windows are huge, like 6 rooms wide, because the scale is completely different from the inside to the outside. And then, of course, I forgot lifeboats, like we were making jokes about earlier. And though, yes, I was serious about the entire mission the entire mission, of course, for the poor Marines is just to open the door and walk outside. I was making a joke, but they also have powered armor. So all they have to do is get into their powered armor and then walk outside, and they're effectively miniature mecha. And so that's actually it's better. It is much better for the Marines. They were much happier with the idea that all you do is put them in their armor and then throw them outside, because then they can defend the ship, they can do stuff, they're mobile. Inside a lifeboat, they can't do anything. So, but it was funnier to just say that they go for a walk. We just throw them out the back. Boot! So, I'm not sure what to think whenever I've got it's a mosquito, but it starved to death. Not sure what to think about that. Poor mosquito. I mean, who knew? Anyway, so I managed to get the quarterdeck all squared away, and then I guess I must not have any blood. That's weird. Oh, I saw a new anime out there. Somebody was talking about a new anime that's called, what's it called? It's called Arena the Astronaut Vampire. And it's apparently it's an alternate history from the Russians' point of view. The Russians have launched a dog and Laika, and they want to put a human up there, but they don't want to risk human lives. So they stick a vampire on the ship and launch her. And I'm like, I didn't know I needed to see that, but apparently I need to see that anime very badly because that's silly and I like it a lot. It's remarkably silly. So Genlock is getting a season 2. Wow. Well, there you go. All righty. I'm just going to keep working over here until, well, this needs to be done. So we'll get this done today. So let's us sit down here. I'll give you, and by guys, I mean Brent, a tour. So we have all of I just copied and pasted the engine piece from the previous map, the Corvette, the original deck plans, which are these guys right here. And there are also a couple of other things that happened to make the body of the Corvette be usable as a destroyer as well without the wings. Yes, lifeboats are good. In order to do that, we got rid of that front landing door and made it an aft landing ramp, which allowed me to also put in a mecha bay, which was important. So over here now, we have to kind of reorganize how we're going to deal with the lower deck on this, because I kind of want to deal with, here's Marine land, but I think I'm going to move the brig forward, maybe up here into this little, like, almost unusable forward space. Right? Mech bays are the best space. But first, we've got to, like, kind of merge all of this stuff together. I want to get rid of this lifeboat that's up on the upper deck temporarily. And we're going to close that, turn that off, and we're going to turn off the grids and the deck lines. So we're just going to have just these pieces right here temporarily. And what we're going to do is merge everything together so that this is all one unit, because we got an awful lot of, like, just random things going on up here. So we're going to put that all together as one unit. This lifeboat is going to be the start of the second lifeboat setup. So we're going to put that up there in a second. But first things first, let's look over here on the sweep deck and get in here and look at where the door is. So the door is almost exactly at this line. So we've got all of this area right here that we can use. Let's get it better. All of this area right here that we can use for mecha bay. Although I want to probably put a blast shield or a blast line this side of the lift, so that there's no chance of the mecha exploding or whatever. The mecha probably is going to have to lay on its side or something. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 meters is like our maximum size for the mecha that the Marines can have. Probably 10 meters. You could probably put, like, the head right here, and then the arms and the legs and stuff like that. So a mecha could live right here. But there are different sized mecha in my story. So we've got, because there are huge mecha that live, the Titan mechs, that they live inside Polaris, and their job is to pick up ships and move them and put them down and stuff like that. So it's just easier than a crane. Why build a crane if you can just build a super large mecha? So the mecha pick up the ships and then put them back down, and that's how you move ships around in shuttle bays and ship docking bays. So they have to be big enough to take like cruisers and pick them up and then move them and put them in some spot. It'd be like playing with toys. It'd be so cool. So we'll put a blast door here, or blast shielding. That way there's no way of a mecha exploding. And then we can put the blast doors through here. Open the blast doors. Open the blast doors. Close the blast doors. Close the blast doors. There we go. This indicates a double thick door. Yeah, like a weird double whatever going on over here. All right, so we've done that. Now we've got the bay in. So we'll call this the sweep deck. Not, in fact, the deck that I make you go downstairs and sweep. I'm just saying. If you were wondering, this is probably where I would send you, Brent. I'm, time to go sweep the decks. What is a sweep deck? Sweep the leg deck. I think we're easily entertained, Brent. Now we'll go back over here to the Corvette deck plans because we need to get this guy's office. Because there is a Marine officer in here. Which used to be. We have to decide his size. We all know that officers get huge offices, but I'm just going to stick him here. Best possible option, right next to the toilet. We're just saying. What? We're making some kind of commentary about. You know what? That's not a bad commentary there, Ghost Hand. I mean, really, you're right. I was actually sort of thinking that when I was thinking about the dry matter storage and the food services. Like, everything would have to be different. The food would have to be different. We'd had a discussion about that one before where we were talking about, when they left Earth, how many people would have thought to bring a cow? You know what I mean? So odds are good that they don't eat beef and chicken anymore because I mean they might still have chickens, but the odds are actually much better that they don't have chickens anymore if or they don't have beef. They might have chickens, but they don't have beef. And so I was thinking that too. So, we're all going to have to come up with culinary treats of the Bellatrix Rising. And we may even come up with a Bellatrix Rising cookbook. That'd be awesome. I'm just saying. The Bellatrix Rising cookbook, where we all talk about eating wild snurgleblat. It's always wild snurgleblat. I need to make a creature called a snurgleblat. It is sort of, I think I think you are on to something, my dear friend. I think you are on to something. I think definitely we need to come up with sort of a food blog concept thing for what the food is going on here. What the food? So the grid got kind of wonked over here, didn't it? Not sure why it got wonked. That seems weird. There we go. There's nothing I can do. So it is cooking. I mean, like, I don't know what my wife was doing downstairs, but she was cooking something before she left for dinner tonight. And it's the smell is permeating the house of something beef oriented. I don't know what she was doing, something pot roast or something like that. But you are absolutely right. There's something really human about the idea and the concept of cooking, and it is part of our just who we are as people, as a a life form. And actually, that's another thing is you could have a non-human say, this is one of my favorite things about humans is you guys are so into food. We never thought about food before, who knows? I mean, it could be like they could be totally into the idea of food. We're gonna have to figure out how to get this to fit in here. I like this better also because this second design means that we aren't sticking them right next to the armory, which just seems like you have part 1 of 8 printed. I just caught that now. So that's good. Definitely. Ooh, right? It's amazing how food can just change your entire outlook on life. It sounds really good, though. If you're still with me at the end of this show, we're all going to be like hungry. We're going to be like, oh man, it's all Ghost Hand's fault. We're all hungry. Yeah, I should put double walls between all of these, or at least something. Right? We just. Well, I was thinking about a scene because at the end of issue 1, we take the Commonwealth person that we pick up on Moment and we throw her in the brig, right? And I was just thinking about, first of all, I was thinking about what I was talking about yesterday about lifeboats, and how, it's you, you guys are just sort of in this spot where it's like, well, hope you guys can handle the fact that you're about to get blown up, sort of thing. But I thought it'd be funny if, here goes the Marine, they throw her in the brig, they hit the little door closey thing, and it locks, and they say, okay, so welcome to the Kitty Wake. Mules are at, 9 and 12 or whatever. And in case of an emergency, walk out this door into space. And here's your Mae West. And they throw them like this orange spacesuit that they can wear, which is space capable. There's your Mae West. Merry Christmas. Hope you wear it. So yes, and that's the thing, right? Brent's sort of mentioning sort of the space version of keel hauling, right? You just stick him in a space suit and throw the line out, and then bolt the line to the hull of the ship, and then fly around with your prisoners kind of hanging out. Though funny, I feel like that's kind of a violation of constitutional rights. I'm just saying. It's an entertaining violation of constitutional rights. However, I think that it's still a violation of their constitutional rights. So we should probably at least be kind to them on this. Man, how far does this go? There we go. Boy, that took a lot of effort. It is true. I mean, but like, for example, here's the thing. One of the concepts that we're working on here is that when they take prisoners, for example, in the comic with that we're working on right now, it's not that the person that they've captured, I mean, she's kind of been a pain in the butt and irritating, but it's not actual. I'm just getting the grid out from behind the words there. She hasn't been really like a threat. Well, even if she was a threat, she has a sort of like a constitutional right to not be mistreated. And really, her big push was that she was trying to convince Moment to become Commonwealth and not be excuse me, I'm allergic to mornings. I'm allergic to Monday. She was trying to convince the Commonwealth to or she was trying to convince the she was trying to convince Moment to be a a Commonwealth location and not a whatever. You know what we should do is make this area right here like a mech construction bay, like a mechanical bay. So she wasn't really like hurting anybody. It's not like she was some kind of. I've got to admit, I mean, we've got spacesuit technology now to the point where it's pretty much just clothes, right? I mean, you just kind of, if you live in the world of Bellatrix Rising, your clothes seal and give you like 5 or 6 hours of space capability, right? So, I mean, you're not wrong. You could pretty much just push the seal button on their suits, plug in an air hose, and kick them out the back door. Well, that's one of the reasons, though, that I like the idea of putting. I mean, like this is delineated lines up here. I mean, we can definitely put a double wall here and lock this entire front area out so that there's no way. And also, I mean, really honestly, the brig, 99% of the time, I think that a normal Navy brig is going to be used for infractions of the ship's law. You know, so you don't want to just, Sailor Bob over here has, he got drunk last night. So out you go, Sailor Bob. Bye. Oh man, Sailor Bob, you really shouldn't get drunk. I mean, it's true that this is not a bad way to ensure that they won't escape, but on the same token, I kind of feel like most of the time we don't carry prisoners on board ships unless it's a prison ship. And at which time, I mean, a prison ship, if I were to build a prison ship, I wouldn't necessarily put them into space, but I would put them in a pontoon on the ship that's got its own life support. You know what I mean? Like the prisoners can't. I've never understood, prison breaks in prison ships. Prison ships should just be a pontoon that's connected to the back of a tug, you know? Yeah, right. And you know what? That's not a bad idea. Although we have the maximum capacity of 4 whole prisoners, so it'd have to be a seriously scary riot of 4 people. I've got more Marines than I've got prisoners, or prisoner capability. So to be fair, we kind of have to take into consideration that we don't really have the capability to deal with more than 4 people on this Corvette. Yeah, well, and maybe not pop it off, but certainly there's no connecting tissue, so to speak, with this section of the ship. So this entire area is separatable right here. Right? Okay, you guys. You had Liberty, and what did you do? Really? Yeah. All of you people, to the break. All of you, just go. Just go. Lock yourselves in there. That'd be funny. Especially after Liberty. It's a thing. All right. And then I'll double reinforce this. There we go. And then we might have like a shower area right here. I mean, honestly, if you don't have a culture with body shame as much, then it's not as big of a deal to just strip your prisoners down, throw them in the shower, clean them off, scan them, make sure that they're not carrying anything in a body cavity, and then throw them in the brig. Although I think it'd be funnier if it turns out that the Commonwealth does have body shame problems. Then they'd be like, no, don't do that to me. Right? I also think that brig showers would be like the main showers are broken, guys. We'll have to use the brig showers. Everybody's downstairs in the brig showers. Damn it. Uh, then I've been putting a retaining wall here to just keep the water from escaping the brig or escaping the showers. I feel like there'd be an office right here. Like a desk. Where some poor Marine, this is where I assign Brent. He just sits there and watches. And that's his job. He's like, shoot me now. This is like the worst spot for my Marines to be assigned. Right here. You got what? I got cell watching duty. There we go. Yeah, a desk. It's a desk where you can see down the hallway. I thought about that too. Like, would you get to the point where it just would be normal, like seeing people with round faces versus narrow faces? I mean, nobody ever says, gosh, your face sure is round. You need to work. You know what I mean? Like, so I mean, would you get to the point where it's just like me? I also, the other thing though is I believe firmly that the reason a lot of us are obese is because our culture has gotten to the point where there's sugar in everything and sugar makes us fat. It also destroys our teeth, which I'm sure is a big deal with you, Ghost Dan. I'm sure you hear that a lot. Um, but I'm of the opinion that if you take away the incentive to put sugar in everything, then people wouldn't gorge themselves as much. I also uh, want to put in a robust mental health thing because I know I overeat whenever I feel down on myself or whenever I feel particularly, you know, like grumpy or bad about me and who I am or, stuff like that. And I'm sure that, especially whenever like my imposter syndrome hits and I can't draw very well and everything I draw is stupid. And that's particularly rough because this is what I do. And so, right, exactly. Well, and that's what I was saying is I don't think there will be as many obese people. If you've got a good health care system and things aren't as encouraged to be fattening and sweet, I think that people wouldn't be as obese. You might have people who have disorders who become obese, But again, you can reverse those disorders. We've got the ability, we've got all of the medical perfection stuff. So, like, we would just reverse it, you know? So, in the Unity, they'd be like, we'll just reverse that. It's okay. It's all good. But I think also if you address mental health and if you address, um, general health care, there are fewer obese people in Japan, you know, and they've got socialized healthcare and stuff like that. Although they don't have, they've got two problems that are bleeding in from us. One, they're good. Everything's getting sweeter over there. I was noticing that when I was over there in '06. Everything's progressing to sweeter, and so they've got more and more kids that are already overweight. Certainly nowhere near what we've got going on here. Um, but still a thing. Um, and so I'm like, I think that if you had, rather than looking at how we would be, I mean, I also think that once we all left Earth, there would have been a time where we were starving at like for like 50 or 60 years. We'd be barely getting the nutrients we needed. And I think that's enough to reset our mindsets, if you are not starving, but here's your supplement A, and that's exactly 2,000 calories. It tastes like dirt mixed with some slight amount of vanilla, vanilla dirt. It's exactly 2,000 calories. You chop it into three segments and eat segment one for breakfast and segment two for lunch and segment three for dinner. I think that might really reset how we are. Exactly. Exactly. We only slow down when we start to become obese. I go for a walk now with a buddy of mine every day. And the first couple of weeks, it was brutal. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go out there. I didn't want to be with him. It was horrible. Now I actually kind of look forward to it. We're hitting sort of a tipping point. And we're walking 3 loops around the park. And recently I've decided I'm going to try to jog from one section to the next, just a little small section of my walk. So I mean, I'm like upping my game a little bit here, which I think is kind of good too. Yeah, you could, but like I said, I kind of like the idea that rather than it being punitive, it's the norm. You know what I mean? Like instigating a weight limit on space flight would be kind of like instigating a face limit. Your face can only be X wide. People just wouldn't, because why? You know, you'll have this person or that person who is structurally large, and that's just the nature of the beast. They are, like from Maui or from the islands of the Pacific. Those people are structurally large people. They're big people by just nature. Look at Jason Momoa, right? He's huge. You wouldn't want to instigate a weight limit on him because he's in just fine shape. Everything's fine. So, if you said you can't be over, let's say, 120 kilos, Jason Momoa would never be able to go anywhere because he's already over 120 kilos easily. He's huge, but he's not fat. He's massive. You wouldn't be able to let Vin Diesel go anywhere. He's huge. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson wouldn't be able to go anywhere. He's huge. I think that I guess sort of, if I'm looking at this as sort of a utopia, in the utopia, if you have people who are overweight because of a medical problem, people would look at that as a medical problem and not as oh, well, you should lose weight. You know what I mean? They wouldn't. They wouldn't look at it that way. It would be a, wow, are you're seeing a doctor for this? Yeah, I'm seeing a doctor every week. We're trying to get the weight down and da, 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 da. Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty cool. I hope you do better. Thanks. It'd just be that kind of sort of thing. I don't think I would get this this thought process of, you've got to lose weight, or whatever. It'd be just a different thing. Um, oh, we need food synthesis. Speaking of, so we'll need food service down here too. You can't just not eat, you know. And put food service right here. Because really, ultimately, what you could do is lock and seal this door and then unlock the brig doors and then say, go get your own food while the Marine sits here, you know. And I would put a mounted mazer up here so that the Marine isn't even armed. The mazer is controlled by another Marine that's on the other side of the wall. So these are all things that I've kind of pondered. Because it does, I feel like obesity and that kind of thing is definitely a problem, but I'm not 100% sure it is the result of people not having enough control or whatever. So many of my friends are obese, and so many of them are struggling all the time. And it's like, I'm not. And here specifically, like so many of my friends in America are obese that I can't chalk it up to just every American is lazy and has no self-control, because I know a number of my friends are military or martial artists or whatever, which is all about self-control. And so it's kind of like, how did we end up there? You know, it seems kind of weird that they would all just be lazy. It seems kind of a over dramatic thing. And the more I looked at it, more like my wife was looking into food. My wife is, like the classic Californian hippie. I always say that. And she really is. I mean, she likes to eat very lightly and she eats really well. And because of that, she's tiny. And so there's definitely something about um, sort of the concept of what we eat and what we're trying to eat in this culture. And so I kind of feel like if we could figure out a way to get rid of all of our sugars in our culture, or at least the excess sugars, it's not that it's sugar, it's ridiculous amounts of sugar. There's sugar in everything. There's sugar in our milk. Why is there sugar in our milk? You know, there's sugar in there's sugar in the spaghetti sauce that my wife wanted to get once. She was like, I'll get spaghetti sauce. And then she looked at it and she's like, there's sugar in this. And it was the number one ingredient too. So it was like mostly sugar. It wasn't like it had like a gram of sugar in it. It had like a lot of sugar. It was mostly sugar. So I could kind of see what if we didn't, well, maybe I want to move this guy down closer to here. I don't know, maybe. all these triangular things make great electrical trunking spaces, because you know you're going to have to bring water lines, electric lines, and stuff like that down. So I kind of like having these open spaces here. Although I've been making all my hallways 2 meters instead of one. So I kind of want to put this guy here. That gives me a 2 meter hallway here. It doesn't need to be there. It could be here because this is 2 meters, right? So we'll put a hallway in that way. I don't know. It's something to think about. I I very much feel like we need to work on addressing obesity in a non-accusational way as a culture, um, because of course the culture really is big on, well, all you need to do is just stop eating candy all the time, and okay, it's very accusational, and it makes us believe that it's our fault, that our obesity is due to the fact that I have strong feelings about obesity. I guess I didn't think about it, but I mean, I guess I do. Well, and I guess that makes some sense. I have problems with it. It's not like I'm not struggling right now with obesity, right? There you go. I think this is the episode where I totally scared off Ghost Hand and Brent with with a rant about obesity. This is totally a machine room. I say that because that the whole idea here is that this machinery just sits there. Yeah, I know. I'm just teasing. The machinery is like, so when you're a Marine and you're, hanging out in this bunk right here, you're like trying to sleep all night, and all night long, some machine is doing a thing back there. So that's classic, I tell you. That way I can go through here and clean kind of this up right here. Well, we only get a 2.5 meter causeway right here, but I don't think, I mean, really, I think part of this could be that you disconnect part of the Mecca here, and because this should be our Mecca loading bay right here. I'm certainly not saying that we are absolved, by the way, of responsibility for obesity. I'm just saying I think that a lot of the culture goes and does weird decision makings about how we are handling it. Right? And I think that really we should do less of the blaming game and more of the trying to figure out what the psychological reason behind it is. The more complicated I'm making this, though, the more I'm worried about the escape plan that I had in place. Ah, Marines, it's time. It's time for us to abandon ship. Everybody just walks out this back deck here on the sweep deck. They just blow the door. I don't know. I think I should just. There's no reason to have this extra space here, right? I mean, we'll just go on ahead. We've got the ability to do the curve, so we will. There we go. Seal it in. Ha ha ha. There. And this will be the machine room. And that gives us a lot of space down here to put to the mecha bay and the machine room, and then the sweep deck to load out. Still have a ton of space up front, so I guess workout rooms and things like that would be useful. So we'll go ahead and make a. I mean, obviously, we're going to need parts storage. Space Jam. Right? And you guys will need your own conference room. That's a thing. And then, like, this would be like a quarter deck sort of thing. Wonder if I should put a door on the side. The space pool. Yep. This is where the bowling alley is, right? You've heard that old joke about Star Trek that there's a bowling alley on the Enterprise. Legitimately, there is a bowling alley on the Enterprise, according to all of the deck plans. It's very entertaining. There you go. So this section down here, this lower part, actually drops down and does have a pretty solid solid left and right side. The problem is it's a long way off the ground. So I'm kind of wondering if I couldn't put like another gangway or something where it drops a ramp so that you could load prisoners into the brig straight up without having to go through the entire back end of the ship. You know what I mean? A prisoner transfer airlock. This guy right here. And that way we can put a large door here. I'm going to put a door here and seal. Damn it. Come on. We can seal the living quarters and everything of the Marines so that we don't have to involve
It's time to take a quick break.
involve them in things, so that this is an exit door that opens inward. Unlike this airlock, which extends outward so that the quarterdeck is open, this one's not really a quarterdeck. It's just a prisoner loading area, which would be extremely useful when we get to the concept and the idea of like, also all kinds of things. Like, you can load to that door. Right. And just have people come in that door, which I think would be good. I don't know what's going on with my right leg. Boy, it's not happy. That's not abnormal. We'll get there. All right. Okay. Well, that works. So we'll go ahead and switch back to the monitor. Make sure that there's nothing else that needs to be known. Good heavens. So we will head back into this area, and this is good because this will give us sort of an entry into loading zone out to the side of the ship and stuff like that. So allow us to bring prisoners in if we needed to. Like I said, I don't expect a lot of prisoner options. I mean, it's not like the ship, but I mean, that's part of what happens in the first issue is they get a prisoner. But I also sort of feel like most of the time your prisoners are kind of, we're just taking your freedom away so you'll straighten up and fly right and stop being a goofball, you know? I also feel like modern sci-fi does some really weird things with, like, the prisoners escape, and the first thing they do is use the guards' computers to tap into Infonet and reprogram the ship's engines so that, I mean, what how did you get there? Sort of thing. It's like, how did you pull that off? There is no who designs the computer With anything better, worse than basic Google access? Not you, right? Who programs that? You know, I wouldn't give these machines anything more than basic Google access, right? And so that's always like one of my big gripes about the basic or the sci-fi shows. They're like, haha, we've broken out. You know what? Really? No. You guys have broken out and you can take a shower and get food. Congratulations, you broke out. But you're not going past the firewall, and the computer doesn't do anything other than control the doors. So there's that. Not you. So, okay. To be fair, also, this is probably the airlock that we would use if we were to throw somebody out. You know what I mean? You were so determined. There we go. All right. Now I think we've got lower deck. Deck 2 is complete. I'm pretty happy with that. That looks like pretty much what we wanted. We've got the Marine officer here. I'm going to zoom in here. Right. And Marine enlisted. There we go. Put in our doors. There. All right. I hit save. Make it the mech bay. Well, that's what I was thinking. You know, super drama, right? You stand them in the mech bay, but then you just like throw the door and the sweep deck lowers. You know, as soon as that sweep deck lowers, though, I mean, it's all the air is gone right then and there. Because that's that entire ramp. That's the door is as wide as the mech bay. So as soon as it opens, you're out. All the air is out. There's no. It's not like it's whistling through a little hole like an airlock. It'd be that door just opens and there, you're depressurized like that. Which is kind of the reason why I've got the double doors in here on this section right here. This is the double shielding. That mech bay is protected, and the machine room is protected too. So there is that. I mean, that is sort of a thing. All right. So let's see here. Now moving up one level, we'll go on ahead and work on this because we do need to come up with the pilot house. Technically, everything forward of here, this is forward of this engineering line here. Everything forward of this line right here should be pilot house and pilot house things. And so the question really is, what is in the pilot house? Because my thought is that this is 3 meters. That's 9 feet, 10 feet to the front. That's as big as this room. So halfway through this could be the actual like forward pilot house. And then we could have a hallway. And over here could be various other there we go. Because I think directly behind the pilot house is navigation, right? I think this should be chart room. Because one of the things that I actually am kind of liking quite a bit is that when we are in space, none of the computers work. And so you're back to writing notes on pieces of paper and charts and maps and physical media, because it's going to be kind of cool. You're going to have sort of a steampunk effect every time they're in space, and then back to Star Trek once they're out of in space. So I feel like I think that'd be kind of cool. So a navigation room would be good, a chart room. And then over here should be like a radio room. There we go. And then up here is the pilot house. There we go. That's fine. I'll just switch. There we go. Now, let's go ahead and get all these labels into one spot again. deck lines, ship grids, turn off the white parts here, go to the deck plans, and turn off Lifeboat 2. We should probably put Lifeboat 2 down here so that I don't forget him. Because we don't want to glue Lifeboat 2 down. We need to copy Lifeboat. So we'll do this. And then we can turn things back on. Dork, dork, dork. There we go. So this whole thing is not quite the quarter deck anymore. So we're going to... What's selected? That's fine. Quarter deck doesn't have the same terminology it used to. So all right. We also don't have any breaks in the seals here, which we should, so that we can move forward. There we go. I don't think that's what I wanted to do. It isn't. And the reason is because this is the hallway. I gave more room to the quarter deck so that the sailors aren't forced to go through the quarter deck to get to the radio room in the front. And it's bad enough they're going to have to go through the quarter deck to go down a deck and come up a deck. But I wanted to use as much space as I could on the quarter deck. And honestly, that puts that one transfer port here. I don't know. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 8 meters to the back there. Because I feel like just looking at the way traffic would work, people would be inclined to go this way through the quarter deck to get up to the forward pilot room. So maybe I should discourage that by putting a wall like this so that they're forced to go this way to get into the quarter deck, generally speaking. Oh, really? Let's put it not on the deck lines. This way, sailors aren't forced to go through the quarter deck when they come down. I mean, it's okay for them to go into the quarter deck. That's fine, but you want to kind of encourage traffic to kind of go this way. There we go. Especially if we have sort of the equivalent of the ship's bell here, and stuff like that. This is where you receive brass and stuff like that. So on the quarterdeck, it seems like it's better to just kind of discourage people from going through the middle of quarterdeck. It'll be kind of a weird shaped room, but that's okay. And maybe even kind of looking at this, maybe I should only have one entrance into the front section of the ship. I don't know. That seems kind of problematic. Although you can always come back up through the back here. So it's not like there's only one access point forward. A lot of people are going to be coming straight from their quarters here, out into the forward section, either the engineering section of the Idris turbine, or you're going out to the radio room, or you're going upstairs to the other floor where on the gun deck, where all of the other tasks and jobs are. So it's one of the two. We'll have to figure that out. Okay. We have built out this floor. You know what? We don't have any showers for our Marines. You guys are just dirty. Marines, dirty. So this part storage, which I really just kind of threw in there because I was like, oh, it needs part storage. I'm going to turn those into Marine showers. So really? Hi. There you go. Which will work. Straight across the street from the gym is good. Montana. Huh. Yeah, I tell you, that's probably a legitimate phone call. Right? No, really, that's a real phone. That's a real person calling from Montana. I don't even know anybody in Montana. That's not true. I know one person in Montana. I doubt seriously she would call me on an unknown number. I'd probably get a phone call from her that actually is exactly from her phone. So, makes total sense. Wouldn't get it from some random person. So, there we go. Put a fill in here. A bench to sit on. And just like in the other area, we're going to put in right here laundry. A laundry machine. You just throw your uniform in and it burns it and then reconstitutes it into a new uniform when you need a new one. It's very important in my mind's eye that we don't have resource, or that there's no resource scarcity. And the reason that that's important is because it's very important that as long as everybody has the bottom part of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as long as that's all met, then people don't fight as much. We won't have as much crime. We'll still have crime, obviously. We'll still have wars. We'll still have things like that, but it won't be as so many of our wars and so many of our fights over the years have been over resources. And so, if you can take away the need for basic human resources like food, shelter, water, and that kind of thing, then you end up only fighting over dilithium resources or whatever. So you end up with um, just generic fights over higher level problems, but it gets rid of all the lower level fights. If you look through the history of humankind, so many of our fights have been over resources, you know. So the let's go ahead and drop this down to 1 and say laundry. Can't even read it. Okay, well, bring that up. Laundry. I don't think there's a U in laundry, which is good because that's Landry. Okay, now I can't spell laundry. Help me out here, guys, because now it's looked silly. It looks wrong both ways, so now I'm completely screwed up. Look it up. Yeah, so it is Laundry. There we go. Laundry. We should also duplicate that sign and put it down here because it's the same thing. Great. Never mind. Because it has decided those two are the same word. So now it has to be laundry and marine showers. That goes with me. Laundry. There we go. Okay, cool. Boop, 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 boop. All right. I have no idea why it keeps demanding that I look at it. So weird. Winamp, which I love dearly and I still use all the time, keeps flashing down there like, pay attention to me. And I click on it and it's like, see, I'm playing music. And I'm like, yeah, like you're supposed to. Why do you need to be in front? What's the story? Why do you need to be up front? It's so weird. Okay. So up on deck 2, or down on deck 2, and now we're up on deck 1. Looking at everything here. I feel like this is all pretty okay now for like human habitation. So we've got like this interesting little like forward, all of this part belongs in the in-space universe. Okay. Head to lunch. Lead the way to lunch. I feel like I'm making a joke here. It's like a weak joke. It's a weak joke. I know it's weak. Okay, up on gun deck. First things first, we've got to consider this guy. So we're going to we're going to duplicate this and this, right? And then we're going to merge these two together temporarily. No, that's not what I wanted. It's this one. You're going to be like, what are you doing? I don't need you. But I do need you to merge you. We're going to check all of the pieces to see that what they're on top of and what they're not on top of. In the instance of this forward Idris drive, the Idris drive needs to break through the top of the gun deck. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it over the gun deck because we need to have an opening like that. And we're going to need to do the same thing with the bridge because the bridge is on the bridge deck, but it pops up onto the Orlop deck a little bit too. Take all of the freeboard deck, make sure that, because we really should just kind of do this number. That way we're sure we're connecting to the right piece. Because it needs to line up with there. There. Perfect. And the rest of this, Control-Shift-I, delete. Delete. Okay. We're going to take this guy, we're going to bring him down to 50%. We're going to go up here into the front of this. See how the single point distortion has an extension that comes up. We want that to be part of the upper deck so that there is no confusion here. Actually, you know what? I could just take literally this and say Control-Shift-I and then go here and say Bork. Bork. It does help if you hit delete, deselect. Because this is still the single point distortion. It's funny, one of the statements that my friend Dean was saying was, gosh, I hope that Guy is not, in fact, has muted his phone because otherwise we're sure pinging him a lot. All right. So we'll bring this guy back up to 100% here. We'll delete that. We'll delete that. We'll delete this and this and this. Good. All right. Now that we've done that, we'll go in here and we'll grab this. Okay, so there's no bottom piece to my single point distortion up here. This is just going to be here. So we're going to just go ahead and pull out this section because the platform isn't here. It's just the distortion itself lives up on this deck. But these arms will still be here. There we go. So the core pieces are still here. It's fine. It's a little bit narrower up at the top, but it's not that bad. So we have now just pretty much the part of the distortion that you... Okay, that's it. I got to silence my phone. Yep. There we go. My phone is now silenced. A lot of disruptions going on. So out here on this deck, up here on the gun deck, the forward gun deck area is engineering. And I have like a lift right here too. Kind of makes me wonder if I want to keep that lift. It's not a lift really, it's a ladder going down. But I think this should be primary engineering. And you're just looking down on the gun deck, or from the gun deck. And what I'll do is grab a whole bunch of computers from here. Indicate, computers. Not you. Well, consoles of some sort. I feel that due to the nature of these, you probably have longer consoles than this. Right? I mean, we'd have... I think it'd be kind of cool if we had some kind of horseshoe console that kind of goes like so. Like past this zone, you're asking for trouble. You know that, right? Because now I'm looking at this and thinking, cooler if that it'd be cooler if this didn't have the like this guy right here. So let's take him out. There you go. And instead, let's install okay, so that puts it right at the back part of the Idris turbine. I actually think I should have gone the other direction. Let's go this way. Let's put the gun deck on top of it and come up with an idea of, well, okay, before we do this, let's not do that. Let's put in the travel ladder. So it's going to be, let's say, right here. There we go. And that goes down a floor. And to make sure that we understand, I have been not putting in the grid inside areas where it's open to a floor below it. That way you can see that only decking has a grid, so to speak. Now we'll take this guy on the gun deck and we'll say copy paste. Now that we've done this, we'll take this, we'll move him over here, and now we know where on the main deck, deselect where the ladder is coming down. There. Welcome back to the stage of history. Okay. So main engineering is here. Oddly. because regardless of the way you look at it, the engine of the ship is right in the nose. It's pulling the ship along. So main engineering is there. We'll put adored engineering. The pressure door to engineering. But right up front. But now that I'm looking at this and having main engineering right there, though probably good because the majority of your accidents are probably going to occur at a main engineering. But I also feel kind of like if we're going to do medical, it has to be to one side of the ship. So it'd be on this side of the ship. Kind of my feeling on this one. I also feel like if it is, it goes all the way to here so that you can have a direct line straight down through the decks. So all of medical should be this section right here. So that's what I'm going to do. And this will be the CMO's office right here. That was wrong. There we go. And this way we have a door that goes straight into medical if we need to, right? You can just slide the door aside and load the people in. And so I kind of feel like this shouldn't be like that weird. Now the graphic designer in me is like, arg, does this have to be so crooked? Can't help it. Really can't help it here. I'm like, there we go. There we go. Well, that's exactly why I'm doing this, because I completely agree with you. It's like but part of this is I just finished reading an entire book about their design of the sets for Star Trek, and it's like when they build the sets and they put all the pieces together. First of all, the set pretty much is the bridge and then a hallway that curves one way and then a hallway that goes straight the other way with a T intersection so that they can shoot in any angle they want to indicate that this is a round hallway and this is a straight hallway. And I was like, that's great, but where do those hallways fit physically? What's the physicality? And I remember Babylon 5 back in the day, they color coded their sets so that you could see what level you were on Babylon 5 because it had different zones that were different colors. And so they would just swap out the colors on the sets so that when they were in brown sector, all of the little panels were brown. And when they were in green sector, all of the panels were green. And it meant that you had a different feel for each section of the ship. And I loved that, or each section of the station. I thought that was so clever and it was very cool. But the other real thing here is sort of a physicality and a logic behind what's going on and thinking out some of the things that you would see and it gives me extra spots, extra places. For example, here's a great example here. This is the CMO's office, right? Well, there could be a waiting room right here if you're waiting for the CMO, right? Because the CMO is going to take you in and say, I'm sorry, Brent, but you have synergobladolitis and it's terminal, and they're not going to want to have to say that and go, hey, Brent, you're dying. See you later. They're going to take you into the office and sit you down. So, now I've got a little bit of a waiting room out here. You can have a little waiting room. It's outside of medical. Let's see, 2 meters by 4 meters, maybe 3 meters by. How big of an office do people need? I mean, like, how big of an office do we need? What is standard size of a medical office? Like, what's the standard size of an office? They may even know. Either way, I'm glad you appreciate it. Thank you. Sometimes I do feel kind of like I'm being slightly crazy. 1.6 meters, huh? 1.8 meters, standard office. Looks like if you have multiple people, which this looks like a pretty good office layout. Right? $20 by $15, huh? $20 by $15. Okay, so let's do the calculator here. 20 divided by 3, so 6. 15 divided by 3, 6 by 5, 5 by 6. It's a little tight for CEO's office, right? A little tight, but not horrible. And then all of this can be sick bay. I mean, really, honestly, a hospital is a big deal, right? Not only do I want to make sure that my medical situation is big enough to handle anybody on the ship being sick, but I go to planet XYZ and they've got 20 people who are sick. I should be able to take them aboard and treat them. I'll give this engineering supply. And this one down here will be medical supply. I have absolutely no idea. We have not talked much this last week. Hopefully, we will have Chelsea with us, which would be really nice because I've missed her. And the medical supply. So there we go. That front section has main engineering, engineering supply, sick bay, medical supply, and the CMO's office. Right? I do too. I just miss Chelsea in general. Okay. I need to make sure we have our lifeboats in here now. Now that I've kind of put things in its correct spot, I can tell, first of all, this lifeboat needs to be much closer to here. Because now interesting. Now, when we could. I mean, certainly. Well, Troy hasn't seen it yet, and Troy wasn't with us last night when we went and saw it because he didn't like us. I'm just kidding. He had other things he needed to do, but it's funnier to say he didn't like us. So there's that. Still having sort of that thing going on here. So every time I select these things, I'm noticing I get kind of trash going on over here. But this way, medical folks can get out of we can load up the lifeboats there on the forward stations with wounded. So there we go. But this also, so one of the other things that I kind of want to do here is in doing all of this highly detailed work on the layout of the ship, we get a few things. The exterior of the ship now has accurate doors that say lifeboat on them. And when a ship has ejected all of its lifeboats, now we can do things like physically look at the ship and say, oh, only the medical lifeboats launched, or only the passenger lifeboats launched, or you know what I mean? Like you can tell kind of what's going on by what's the status of things. So knowing that is extraordinarily helpful and things like that. So having that kind of level of detail is very important to me for realism purposes. Now that I know where parts of the ship are. The other thing is, I mean, legitimately, it gives me something to sell on my table, right? You want the deck plans of the Kitty Wake? That's, $10 or whatever. And you can have your own 25 millimeter deck plans of the Kitty Wake, and they're already established. That's why I'm making the grid a separate thing, because do you want to do it in Starfinder, everything else is in 5-foot squares, so I'll have to kind of adjust my grid to a 5-foot square grid. But it's not that much bigger than a 1 meter by 1 meter square. So there's that. But that there you go. You can play the game. You can play with 25 millimeter miniatures on a Kittiwake map. Voila. So one of the reasons that we're kind of doing these is that it's a marketable thing. We can sell it on the table. And it would be legitimate. It's exactly the way that the ship looks in the comic. So that's cool. And so that's one of the reasons that I'm doing it this way. The other reason is just understanding my space and understanding where everybody is when they're walking down a hallway. What hallway are they walking down? I like that a lot. It feels better. Like kind of thinking about it, I'm like, oh man, that feels a whole lot better to know that. I mean, as an example, we're loading the prisoners into the bottom of the spacecraft and throwing them into the brig. I know now that they're not coming up the landing ramp. They're coming up the loading dock on the side. It also gives a little bit more. There's a scene where I want to bring the character Alex aboard. She's breathing normal air because Moment is one of the few worlds in the entire universe of what we've got that actually has an oxygen nitrogen atmosphere. And so she's breathing like you and me, but she doesn't have the converters to convert the 50-50 oxygen carbon dioxide atmosphere that generally all spacecraft run. So because of that, the person brings her aboard, puts her in the airlock, cycles the airlock. They're like, da 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 da, and all of a sudden she goes, thump, and faints. Why? And she's suddenly got carbon dioxide poisoning, right? So now we've got to take her immediately to medical, which is up 2 decks and over. Now we know exactly how to get her to medical, right? So that works. It works just fine. And so we'll be able to do that. And now we have a physicality to it, right? It's up 2 decks and over. And then we're good. So kind of like the feel of everything. How long will it take us to do things? How long will it take us to figure stuff out here? So, yeah, except I don't have teleporters. So I thought about teleporters and I was like, that's just too on point. It's just too on point. And it's the one part of the world of Star Trek that really is kind of uniquely Star Trek. So I can do without it. And I noticed that Orville did the same thing. They just decided to back out of transporters. We don't need transporters. I mean, I've got spacecraft and mecha and shuttles and all kinds of stuff. I don't need point-to-point transporters. Transporters are great if you're a 1960s TV show and you need a plot device to get us around, the fact that we don't want to have to show a shuttlecraft landing all the time. Yes, the magics, on the other hand, might give us the ability to teleport. And that's a different story. But since the Unity is obliquely trying to not do magic at all, and it's taboo, they won't use a magic teleporter. So, but you're right, a magic teleporter, have some guy, wah, 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 and you go, boop, and you disappear. And then he goes, wah, 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 and you go, boop, and you appear. That could happen. Totally could see that. So the magics of this particular thing are based. Okay. Weirdest place to be tickled. Getting weirder stuff out on Twitch, which is all right. The show's over, so we're done. So there you go. Anyway, that could be sort of what we're talking about here. We'll see. But now that we've gotten kind of to this point, I think tomorrow I will spend a little bit more time on the gun deck, and then a little bit more time up on the bridge deck, and then we'll have the Orlop deck and we're done. And then we are good. And all of this is ready for building of sets, which is the next thing we do, is build sets based off of this. Because like the bridge was what started this whole thing. I've got to get the bridge in here somehow, but can't figure out how to get the bridge to fit just yet. I know it pops up into the Orlop deck set slightly, because it's a dome that's 2 decks high. And the Orlop deck's going to have that overlook, and then there's the understructure, and then we'll get all that figured out. So that's next. So that's all I got for today. I will be back tomorrow at the same bat time and same bat channel, which is 9 a.m. Mountain Time. And I will see you all later. Thank you for joining me, Brent, and thank you for joining me, Ghost Hand. And you know what? Trump beats shorts. It's good to see you, even if that was kind of a strange question. So I will see you all tomorrow. And remember to keep your eyes on the stars. Bye-bye. Computer, good night.